Hallelujah.
Welcome.
Shalom. Shalom. Greetings, everyone. Greetings. I want to welcome you to another broadcast of Raw and Upfront. And as you can see, man, I got groups of people around me tonight. And this is going to be a very interesting broadcast, very interesting program. So I want to encourage you to not just come on in, but as you come in, click that share button, share the link, give others an opportunity to be a partaker of the word tonight that's going to be going forth. We're going to be having an open discussion. I started a teaching a couple of weeks ago on the power of words and rap music and so tonight we have some people who are going to give us some insight into it. I shared with you guys in those teachings that it is not saying that we're not saying that everyone that's doing rap music and all rap music is bad. But we know if you've been around any time, the um, the dangers or the damage that's been done in our community by many of these people that's in what you call the hip hop culture. So tonight we're going to have a kind of open discussion on that. You're going to get hear probably from every angle it can be heard from, and so I'm going to go ahead and bring my ministry partner in, Pastor Terry Parker, and he's going to greet you and introduce all the our guests tonight. Shalom, brother.
Shalom,
Shalom.
shalom, Pastor Holly. Yes. Again, I want those of you that are watching or I would like you to go ahead, just hit that share button so that others can be a partaker of this impending discussion that we're going to we're getting ready to enter into. I'm Pastor Terry Parker, and again, I want to welcome you. We have some special guests on who are going to be participating in I'm sure it's going to be a very lively discussion. Uh, and Pastor Holly, if you go back and watch some of Pastor Holly's this last two teachings, if I'm not mistaken, was talking about the dangers of hip hop. Okay. And like he said, he made the disclaimer that all hip hop is not bad. But I have you to know that hip hop in some instances has been hijacked by some of those that have ill intent. And that but we're not gonna harp on that. We're gonna get into this discussion. I want to introduce some of the people we have here on the panel. First of all, we have and they're all Parkers. Isn't that something? We have Carl Parker, who has to be my brother, Carl Parker. Hello, Carl. How's it going, my brother?
Going on, brother?
All right. And then we have Marcus Parker, who is a rap artist. He's a motivational speaker, rap artist. The good thing about this discussion is that although we talked about the actual dangers and the damage that hip hop has done, we have on here on our platform today those that present an alternative to those dangers, positive rap, positive hip hop. So I want to introduce to you Marcus Parker, who's also not only a motivational speaker and rap artist, he's also an author of how many books, Marcus?
Uh, like three, 4 or 5.
4 or 5 books.
Yeah,
4 or 5. You must have one in the making.
you're right.
Yes. So Marcus Parker, who happens to be the son of my deceased brother, Richard Parker. And then we have Zig Parker. I know him as Kambui, but his name is stage name is Zig. But Zig is also the son of my brother Deloyd Parker, from the director of Shake Community Center. Now Zig's wife, Mirror Reflex, is a rapper. She's I've never known her in all the rap that I've heard her do, and she's also a singer as well. I've never heard her use derogatory words, the B word that's prevails in some rap lyrics. I've always known her to do positive stuff In fact, she worked with children, so she had to do positive stuff. She was impelled. She had to. So we're going to have these brothers to kind of share their insight into the rap culture. And like I said, these two people here are, and Kambui also does. I'm gonna bring this in. He's also a sound engineer. Am I correct, Zig? And he does
Yes,
sound
sound
engineering.
engineer as well as I have a video production company as well. So I do music videos and commercials and
Yes, so
stuff.
you on both
Yeah,
sides of the spectrum.
yeah,
Yeah, and
absolutely.
Kambui,
Yeah, and
I
you
know you.
also need to mention that he doesn't live here with the rest of us.
Yes, yeah, Kambu is visiting us all the way from Australia. Is it Sydney?
Sydney,
Sydney,
Australia. Yeah,
Australia. And
Yeah,
Kambu, like I said, part of his what he does is sound engineering for a guy called an artist called L Fresh. I know he did a lot of L Fresh stuff, and L Fresh is also a rapper. But I've noticed in what listening to some of his stuff, he does a lot of social justice rap. Am I correct?
correct,
A lot of his
correct,
stuff is social justice. Yes,
correct.
yes.
yeah, yeah. Well, you know what? That I was thinking about that the other day, and I was from the music. Carl can kind of uh, catch me on this. The music, like when we was coming up, when you had artists like Curtis Mayfield,
Right.
and they did a lot of social justice stuff,
Exactly.
things that spoke to us as a community to motivate us to do better. Moving on
Right.
up. I think y'all
Right.
remember that song. We moving on
Yeah.
up,
Yeah.
and so
I'm black and I'm proud.
yeah, yeah, yeah. James Brown, amen. Yeah, and
People get
so
ready.
yeah,
Mhm.
people get ready. Yeah. So I want one of the guys that's into the rap music industry to kind of share uh do they how do they see rap music? Did you see it as something that started out as a positive uh vehicle, then that was kind of hijacked and taken in the wrong direction, and you have people who trying to get it back in the right place. How do you see that?
Right. Zeke.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in on that. I guess first let's sort of because these terms are pretty broad when it comes to rap music, hip hop music. Hip hop itself is a culture. It's a sort of a subculture, and hip hop is you know dress. It's the way it's rap is part of hip hop. Rap is a part of hip hop. There's graffiti. There's breakdancing. There's DJing. So there's 4 or 5 elements of hip hop itself. Rap is just an element of hip hop. So when so I'm about 52 now. So rap started. I mean, we just celebrated our 50 year of hip hop this past year in 2023, and they celebrated 50 years of hip hop. So I guess they took it from when sort of it was first recognized and sort of coined hip hop, and sort of went from there. And it was a way of um, the generation at the time sort of coming out of or sort of representing what was sort of seen on the streets, what they were seeing. It was coming out of poverty, coming out of these certain areas, in particular in the Bronx in New York. And that was sort of the birth of hip hop. And it was very sort of braggadocious. It was very uh, there was a conscious era of hip hop or rap music. And so it's always had a bit of we as black people like talk about what we have and what we want to have and what we attain to have, and all these things. But it always came from a positive place. And then sort of over time, as it became sort of mainstream, and the powers that be, the record labels in particular, started to see that it was it was a force. It was, they thought it was something, it was going to be a phase. It was something that wasn't going to last long. And now it's the only genre that's merged with every other genre of music. So
Let me interrupt you just
worldwide,
for a
it's the,
second, if you will.
yeah,
When you
yeah,
mentioned the fact that hip hop and rap, that you say it's a culture, and
yeah,
you mentioned that one of the aspects of that culture is dress, dress.
yes.
What is your take on the butt showing? You know, the
Pants sagging.
pants below the pants below the crack. I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and be real with you.
Yeah. Well,
What's your take on that?
well, the that kind of spawned from a lot of that. Unfortunately, kind of spawned from the jail.
Yeah,
In jail, they take away your belt, so you might be using your shoestring to hold up your pants. But it was a style of clothes at that time. Everything was big, which is actually coming back around again now. That sort of '80s, late '70s, '80s gear
except
is now
because
coming
there's
back
some
around.
kids, there are kids who've never seen a jailhouse before, but they
Yeah,
tend to mimic what they see.
Right.
yeah. Well, it wasn't necessarily that wasn't what started it, but it was, you had, because hip hop was starting to generate money in these areas. You
Oh, okay,
had
I got you.
people that were starting to make clothing that worked with hip hop. And hip hop in the beginning was very sort of dance oriented and everything. So loose clothing was, you know, was was a thing to have, especially in the '80s. It was all of the big baggy clothes, and that was partly due to the dance culture in hip hop. So when I say it came from that's more of the sagging part of it.
Yeah,
Now you can
yeah,
have big clothes without it sagging below your belt and showing your drawers and all of that.
yeah,
That came from that. But
yeah,
initially it was baggy pants and baggy clothes, and with belts, and they fit, they were on,
yeah,
they were up above your butt, and it was partly due to the dance culture. And somewhere over time, the new generation tend to do things a little different than the previous generation. So they started adapting more of sort of the European fit of clothes. Because
yeah,
me living in Australia, you buy clothes, you buy a large or a medium or small, it fits like a small, like it's tighter clothes and tighter clothing. So they started to adapt the skinny jeans and all of that. So that, now this new generation of coming into more of the skinny jeans, and now that's starting to fade out, but coming into more of that skinny jean thing. And as far as the women, it's all, for some reason, it's always, well, I won't say always, the initial females in hip hop, like the Latifahs and you know, I'm going blank now, but uh, what's her name? Light as a Rock, MC
Hey,
Lights, and
like,
all of those, yeah, all of those rappers, they wore the baggy clothes and the sort of things that represented queens in hip hop. And but then it became over sexualized. The women had to be, in order for them to be, do anything, to make any moves in hip hop, it became sort of over sexualized. So they had to wear, well, they didn't have to wear, but a lot of them felt they had to wear really tight, revealing clothing to be sort of seen in hip hop. And then the music started to sort of go along with that, with calling women hoes and the B word and all of that. And then it sort of perpetuated that with the female rappers. So, of course you have the female rappers that don't wear that. And, they did like a Lauryn Hill or those type of rappers that
hmm
that aren't, part of that vibe. But usually the ones that have that that wear that attire, the music kind of fits that. If you listen to their music, it kind of fits that the
So
way they
so in
dress.
essence, the hip hop culture was sort of hijacked by those that had ill intent or those that saw some financial benefit from it.
Right. So, and it even goes deeper into because he hit on all the points from the beginning to now. The thing is now the it's like rap is almost like the Pied Piper music to the prison system. Like, did
Mhm.
you know that the actual companies that own the prisons own the major
Own
record
the record
labels?
companies, absolutely.
Wow.
So
Yes,
Yep.
why would you
private
want you don't want Marcus
privatized.
Parker telling the kids that, be yourself and you can follow your dreams and stuff like that? You're gonna put the person in power who's gonna tell them, man, go shoot that dude if he disrespect you. That way I get a 2-for-1 special. I get to lock you up, and there's one less person I gotta deal with. And it's really
Yep,
kind of, it's gotten that bad. But look, if you look up like the Vanguard Group and those different companies that they own the actual record company. So it's like
yep,
they want the music has to follow the trend, the narrative that they are trying to perpetuate, which is to get
yep.
everybody in prison. Because, when we talk about we came out of slavery, do you know that there's more people right now in the prison system in the United States than it ever was at the height of when slavery was
Yeah.
here? So now they have a big
Modern
prison
day
complex.
slavery. Yep.
So
Yeah.
now, like when he mentioned about the belt and the thing and how that came from the prison system, it's the truth because they let the prison narrative is the cool thing. So it's not like when you guys were talking about the old school, wake up everybody,
Yeah.
and we all had like a sort of like marching orders to do better. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You had marching orders to let's get together and do better. But all of that stuff went out kind of like the Million Man March.
Hmm.
We
Yep.
don't have those types
Eh,
of things no more, right? Because we don't want the positive. And so now we're trying to fight a war that we're so far behind and under weaponed in. And it's very ridiculous. You know what I mean? Because we're working against the system. Like
Yeah.
I can't afford to pay all the radio stations to play my music so that they can continue to play it and everybody's talking positive and that kind of thing. But the prison system can most certainly afford to own all the radio stations, all the DJs, everybody. So all
Yeah.
you hear is a narrative that have them thinking is okay. See, they can't fool the OGs like y'all because you remember what it's supposed to be like.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the
yep.
young people have never seen anything different.
That's right.
And in sort of in defense of the younger generation, the music that was coming out of the 70s and the 60s and was driven also by the movement. It was the civil rights movement. So you had a movement that went along with the music. It was like the
Right.
soundtrack to the movement.
Yes.
Right.
And there's no movement now. So of
Right.
course,
Well,
they
the
left
crack
to their
cocaine movement
yeah, yeah, yeah,
became the
exactly.
marching order. So if you were all aligned in life based on your participation in the game, pretty much. So, I
Yeah.
started rapping as I had a book. I mean, my first book, I'm in the schools, I'm talking, and the teachers suggested this was back in like 2005. They were like, maybe you should start making music to get their attention because I would go out and speak and nobody was listening, right? They're throwing spitballs and they're cutting all up, you know what I mean? But they were like, why don't you, rap to them? Maybe that'll get their attention. So those early raps were like, the kids loved it because it was also about technology. I came from the Air Force. I was recruited out in 1997 because technology was changing. So check this out. Back in 2004 or 5, when my book came out, there was only 3 ways that you could get information to people. You were either gonna do it on the news, on TV, the newspaper, or the radio.
Radio.
So if you
Yep.
didn't talk to those, if you didn't go to the newspaper people, the radio DJs, or you were on the news, how could anybody see you?
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely. Yep.
Now they came up with the smartphone, right? So now when something happens, the kids have seen the real version, the undeleted. They've seen it before the news even get the story.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
So now it's like, whereas before they could, the school or the media could say, we're gonna listen to Marcus Parker's song. They could control that. The kids weren't walking around with their own information device in their hand at that time, right? Because smartphones didn't really come around until 2007. So if you think about it now, they used to be able to say, we'll play this on the radio. So like the after school special, when kids got home from school, they would play the after school special. And it was something, Family Matters, The Cosby Show, everything. They had little, shows that painted a picture. You may go through something bad, but it all works out good in the end. That was, we had a wholesome programming. Now they have a choice. So it's so difficult. Me going to the school now, the kids can't get the teachers can't get them to put away their phones. They're watching what they want to watch, even if it's toxic and destructive and whatever. And so they're getting very little level-headed information now.
Not only watching it, but
acting it out, listening, doing it.
Putting it out TikTok, your Facebook, all your Instagram stuff. They're putting it out themselves, what they want to say and what they want to hear, acting out, their environment. So
allowing you to share it, so now someone else can see it as well. So you're sharing that and perpetuating it. But
exactly.
And that's, if you look at me being overseas for the last, I guess, 14 years now, and you look at how hip hop has influenced the rest of the world is they're still more connected to the elements of hip hop. They're still breakdancing, they're still doing graffiti, they're still, rhyming and ciphering and, all of that. So they haven't yet been, it hasn't yet been sort of sensationalized to where, it's part of everything you do. Now, and it's also kind of creeped into, because the record companies they're sort of like, Terry, as you said, as far as it being hijacked.
Yeah.
It's always kind of been that way, because like you said, they own before it was the prisons, the labels were owned by the big liquor companies. Like Seagram's used to own, I think it was Universal and St. all the big liquor companies were part owners in the record companies. So it's always come from that space. But then when they started to see that, that's why things like artist development is gone now, because a record label used to take an artist and develop them and teach them how to do media training and how to perform on stage, and how to wear certain things that get your audience. And now that's a lost art. Now they're just picking anything that has numbers. Record labels actually they're not going out to areas now and finding talent. They're just going on YouTube and seeing who has the most hits. And then they're contacting them and bringing them in and signing them based on, how many hits they have or how many followers they have based on that. So if you got a following for doing a bunch of negative stuff, that doesn't matter, because you got a following. So they know you can, sell numbers. It's not about selling tangible records anymore. It's about streaming.
Right.
So now that's that brought in a whole other They're running a whole other thing now because now you got the streaming, which they've tried to exclude themselves from, making it seem like this other entity that's come in now to control this, and now labels are struggling because they can't sustain, but really they're just on the back end controlling this whole thing. They try to separate themselves from the streaming aspect of it. Like just recently, Universal pulled their catalog from Spotify because artists were complaining that they weren't getting, paid properly through the Spotify streams. So Universal went in like as if they were a separate entity, came in and pulled all their music from Spotify to kind of show Spotify like, if you don't pay these artists, we're gonna not allow you to stream their music on Spotify. Then Spotify changed up the numbers, put a couple of .00 cents on the dollar that you can earn, and then Universal went and allowed the music to be played on there again to make us seem like they're working for us and not them. But
Yeah.
when tangible music like CDs and cassettes and all of that went away, there was no
Control.
way for the artist. Yeah, there was no way for the artist to be able to know how much they're really making. Like if you went out and you pressed up, 1,000 CDs and you selling them for $10 a piece, you know how much you're gonna make. And if the record company were pressing it for you, you would get a certain amount depending on your deal. You would get a certain amount per record sold. But with the streaming, it's .006 whatever it is percentage of each stream, and you're barely going to see anything. So that's why. So an artist is only really making their money on touring. That's why you see these artists constantly on tour. And
Yeah.
now they've recently got these 360 deals where now they're getting a part of the touring now and the merchandise. So if you make your own merchandise for your brand and you going out on tour, they're giving like a Live Nation or something like that will sign. Live Nation are basically labels now. They're signing artists for big deals and they're calling them 360 deals where they get a piece of your merchandising, they get a piece of your touring, and they get a piece of your record sales.
Wow.
I
And
was
yeah, so it's
I was
yeah,
when I started this teaching, two-part teaching on on hip hop, and that's what I did mention, as he stated, that it is an alternative culture.
yeah,
But the let me pull this up right quick. The main scripture that I was using from the Bible was Mark 4:24. And this is actually the Savior, the Messiah, Yeshua himself speaking. And he said, and it says, and he said unto them, take heed or be careful of what you hear. But with what measure you measure it with, that's how it's going to be measured back to you.
Yeah.
And if you search scripture and the things that the Messiah said, you only find about two things that he gave warnings about. And this is one of them. And the warning is, be careful of what you hear.
yeah, yeah.
Proverbs 18 and 20 tells us death and life is in the power of
Power
the
of the tongue. Mhm.
Yep. And even that's interesting. And even deeper than that, over the past, I don't know, about 7 or 8 years, I've been studying music in the brain and frequencies. And there's certain frequencies that we vibrate on, that negative frequencies and high frequencies are, and there's this frequency of, I think it's about 430 something hertz that vibrates negative energy.
Right.
And that's why a lot of the low end, you get a lot of the low end and the bass and the hip hop and everything. And then you add negative words on top of that, then it's vibrating that energy. So whether you know it is or not, whether you even listening to the lyrics, if you just hearing the music, you're already vibrating at a lower frequency. So
Hey,
it even gets deeper than
Exactly.
the words that are being said.
Exactly.
It gets into the frequencies of, because we're all frequency.
Right.
We're all energy.
hey,
So
check.
when you start vibrating at that energy, then it causes people to do things that they don't even understand why they're doing.
Exactly.
Look,
That's how subtle the enemy is.
let me.
That's how
Yeah,
crafty the enemy is.
hmm
Right.
Before you could be listening to some music before you know it. I mean, that's why you got to guard the ear gate. And the Bible also
yep,
tells us out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. You got to guard that ear gate, because what goes in your ear, can sink to your heart than out of your mouth. So
It's
our kids
everything.
and our kids are bombarded with stuff. It goes
Well,
with their ear
yes.
gates. I
Yes,
mean,
and
our
it's like we're
parents were just
almost saving them out of like like when there's an oil spill and you see like the animals that they pull out of the oil and you got to
yeah,
clean them off.
yeah,
They'll
Hmm.
have like a little duck and it'll be so messed up because of this oil that it takes weeks just to get it all out and clean it before it looks like a regular
yeah,
duck again.
yeah,
yeah,
That's
Yeah,
where we
yeah.
are. And
It's a
with
that's
the
right.
music
conditioning.
and with everything that we're taking in, I took like psychotherapy, like
Yeah,
just me personally trying to figure this all out. I
yeah.
have, all of these little classes that I've taken just to understand. Do you know in Japan, the scientists study, they got a thing called the rice experiment. I don't
Rice
know if you've heard
experiment.
it.
Yeah,
And they
yeah.
can basically, if you talk to rice, good. You could put a jar of rice. You could do it with water and you could do it with a plant.
With
You
plants.
take
Yeah,
a plant and put it in a room, and if you talk good to it, I love you, you're awesome, you're great, that a vibration, it will grow, it will blossom. And then take the same thing, put it in another room, and say, you're ugly, I hate you, I can't stand you. Those vibrations, the plant will die, the molecules of the water will like mess all up, and the rice will spoil. But on the other side, the rice is going to ferment, make good smells. The plant
mm,
will thrive, and the water molecules will turn into snowflakes.
yeah.
And this is all real. So we sit here and listen to all this crazy stuff all day long, and then we don't even understand we're made up of 70% water.
Thin water.
So
Right.
if you're talking all the water inside of your body is all taking on a negative standpoint,
But what I
man, you really in trouble. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, I
yeah,
mean, that's why those good words, that's why everybody, I leave church, I feel good. They don't even understand. They might not have even heard what was said, but they feel good. But it's like, why? Because someone that spoke to the water in your body, to the rice,
Yeah.
everything hears that positive vibration. And that's
Yeah.
what we need.
And it's
yes,
a it's a
yes,
it's a
yes.
it's a conditioning.
Right.
yeah.
It's a
You're right.
conditioning.
I want to refer back to something Marcus, I think, said a little bit earlier, and he was talking about how that the prison system is
Hmm.
tied in
Yeah.
and directly connected to the music industry. Now, I don't want nobody going off on me, but I want to share. I just want to share a little something. When I was thinking about this today, I went and I pulled up a video because I heard him speak on this on some while back on Kanye West from Kanye West.
Yep.
And they were gathered around him and kind of interviewing him. And they got on him because of the fact that he was talking about how that the quote unquote, I guess we call the Jews,
Yep.
had full control over all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, I'm not jumping on Kanye's side. But when someone present facts, they're still facts, no matter who present them.
You said
That's right.
Kanye
Yeah.
pulled out his cell phone
Yeah.
and he showed, and it was like it was hundreds of them, and start naming them: CBS, NBC, Fox, and da 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 da. Just about the whole entertainment industry.
Right.
He said, now look at what's in the red. He said, in the red is the name of the people who are in control of each one of these companies.
Yeah.
And all of them Jews.
Right.
All
Yeah.
of them.
And,
That's right.
and he was saying how that they was getting on him about some of the things that he said.
Mhm.
And how that they came against him because he said certain things about that Jews, whether true or not. I'm not getting into all that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But the one thing I do know he said is true is that we are the true Jews.
That's right.
Now,
Absolutely.
anybody who listens to me know I teach that because it's a fact. And so when from him saying that, he literally got barred across the board.
Oh yeah.
Okay. But he said, I can go on in the recording studio. He said, they control what you say in that studio. There's certain things you cannot put out. He said, but I can go on and go in the recording studio and talk about black women and call them bees. I can call my people the N-word, and they will put money behind it and push it like I don't know what.
That's right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There is an agenda. There was a proven, because the letter came out, I think probably about, I want to say about 15 years ago, that there was a meeting, and the meeting had all of the sort of powers that be in this meeting, and they were talking about how they were going to control the narrative and condition the people and allow only certain music to become mainstream, because it's not about necessarily about talent. It's about what you want, what they want, and are going to use as tools to perpetuate the agenda, or to keep the agenda going. If the agenda is to fill these prisons up, if the agenda is to keep people
unite
in
black
poverty
people.
and then we have these tools, and they're already doing it for us. They're already doing it for us. So there was a letter a meeting that went on, and there was a letter that kind of came out in this meeting, who was somebody exposed that there was, they all got together and met about this, and it's been proven. But a lot of what Kanye says is true, and they, obviously, with anybody who's speaking the truth, whether it's Michael Jackson, whether it's Prince, whether any of these people that have started to expose the industry, you realize how powerful it is once they get to the point of trying to either own something or trying to speak the truth about what some of these execs and these labels are doing. Then they then here comes the mental health aspect of it, where they try to deem them as crazy. And that's we got so much history of that over the years of people who've done that, and all of a sudden they end up deemed crazy in the industry. But I lived and worked in the industry in LA for 16 years through the 90s
Even the suspicion of them being taken out.
Yeah.
Right. The mysterious car accident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The perfect example was Tupac. Tupac was an educated political entity.
Yeah.
That brother he was very political.
Yep.
Very political.
Yep. That's right. And the thing about it, two things can be true. He was that, but then he also allowed himself to get caught up in
Yeah.
certain things as well.
Right.
So, it's two things can be true at the same time. He was in a position, and when you get a lot of these people in position, that that's why a lot of these artists now used to see them going to jail. When they go to jail, they come out of jail and they sell more records than anything after they come
Right.
out.
Call it street
And
credit.
yeah, even with all the issues going on with Diddy right now, Diddy was exposing certain things, and he was being protected to a certain extent. And then as soon as they don't need you anymore, then all the things you have been protected from are now
Right.
going to start to be exposed. So now it's his turn. He had been protected all this time. Now, okay, everything you've ever done, now we're going to, expose. You look at Michael Jackson, he can't go missing. He was exposing not only Jews, but he was exposing the industry, because he owned the Beatles catalog, he owned all the top catalogs, and they didn't want Michael Jackson owning that stuff.
Right.
What do all these people that you're talking about have in common? They're all black.
Yeah.
What do all these ministers or pastors that are being pushed out or resigning, what do they all have in common?
All black.
They're all black. Yes.
Yep. And
Think about it.
they all have constituents or congregation or
Yeah.
fans or
And
whatever.
followers.
So
Power.
they
Got
have
power.
influence and
Yeah.
influence.
Power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Influence.
Influence, because any one of these rappers could run for president tomorrow and be close to winning just because of
Yeah.
their influence and their power, and they know that. They know the power of music. They know the power of the culture, the hip
The
hop
power of
culture
influence,
in
period.
particular. Yeah,
Right.
and they understand that. Like, even with Obama was probably the first president to use social media. He was
Yeah.
the first president to incorporate social media in his campaign, and was allowed to have a BlackBerry where he could and be on Twitter and all of this other stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, it's
Now,
an interesting, yeah.
in the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter,
Mm-hmm.
which is for the listing of the Israelites were when they went in the covenant, and Yahweh, God lists the blessings for obedience and the curses for disobedience,
Yes.
which includes 28 28:6
Yeah.
where he said you will be sent back if for your disobedience, you'll be sent back into slavery again, this time in ships.
Ships.
And if you really look at those curses, basically even the ones that come before that, all those things came up on us after being taken into slavery in ships. And there's one verse in particular that I want to talk about a little bit. Because we got to understand that words have power.
Mm-hmm.
In Deuteronomy 28:37, it says, and you will become a byword,
Byword.
a byword unto all nations. Now, a byword is a word that is used to demean, to insult, to tear down. And so he tells the nation of Israel, in every nation, you will be known by a byword. And that byword that we know of today that we became in every nation is nigger, the N-word. Now, that word, according to the word, what Yahweh himself said, is a result of a curse. How is it then? Because I remember if someone, especially if someone of another color, called you the N word, they better get ready to fight.
Mhm.
How is it then that we've been programmed to not just embrace the word, we still don't embrace it from others, but we embrace it among ourselves? How is it that we will go and spend good money for music for our kids to be taught that it's all right to embrace a word that God himself says is a curse?
Right.
And we now say, my best friend, that's mine, N-word.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right.
How is it?
Casual use it.
How is it that we find that come to this point that we can think it's all right to demean us, our own people, by saying
Exactly.
that's my dog?
Right.
How is it that we can come to a place that we address our women, the ones who's the same sex as our mothers, as bees?
And we try to justify by saying, "Oh, they're just terms of endearment."
Right.
That's how they
All of that was
that's how they
done
try to
through hip
justify
hop,
it. Yep.
Yep.
rap music,
Yeah. Yep. And
made it
I think
acceptable.
at some point with I think it was I believe it was Tupac at one point who tried he saw where it was going with that word and tried to take the power from the word and read sort of the meaning. I think his meaning was um,
Never
his
ignorant.
meaning, yeah, getting goals accomplished.
Yep.
Never ignorant, getting goals accomplished. And that's when he used the word. That's how he was using the meaning of the word, not get and taking away the power of it. So when people outside of us called us that, that's what it meant. Now, especially and that works in a sense where you have a generation that didn't grow up in the civil rights movement, didn't grow up in and didn't have really a knowledge of where they came from. That works with that generation because they're not totally vested in and knowing sort of the sentiments and everything behind that word. Not making it right, but that was his way of sort of taking the power from the word. And now, okay, now we've taken it from you. Now you can't say it, and I dare you to say it. And it wasn't nigger like the slave masters and the people that called us. It was nigga, and he made it an acronym giving that word because he saw where it was going as far as okay, we're not going to, this is too far gone. We're not going to stop people from saying this. But what we can do is redefine the word or the acronym or make it an acronym to where we're going to make this different. Now, whether so now, like Terry said, now they look at it as a sort of term of endearment. So yeah, I live in Australia where there's not as many black people, and if you go to a lot of these hip hop concerts, that's it's a sea of white people in the audience. Anyone of whether it's Kendrick Lamar, whether it's Snoop Dogg, whether it's in it, and not just there, in here, in the Coachella and all these big festivals here, it's nothing but white people in the crowd. One, because they're the only one that can afford these high tickets, but two, because they now have made themselves part of the culture. So now when you got these songs and you have, you know, and the artist is having, the audience sing the song along with them, you could see how they are when they get to the part in the song where that word comes up. Like I'm there in a country where it's not that many of us, and most of us, um, and most of the black people are African, so they don't even have a connection to the word like African Americans do. It doesn't ring off the same way for them as it does for African Americans, because we're the ones that have the history of that,
And we're the ones that are
and
descendants to
the
slaves. Yeah.
descendants of the slaves. Yeah. So you can see, in the shows when some of these artists are singing the song, or they're rapping it, and they put the mic out for the audience to respond, and they don't know whether or not they could say the word, and they looking around to see if they can say the word. And there was times where we couldn't, in Australia, we couldn't get into the club if it was a group of black people and we're trying to get into a particular club or nightclub or whatever. And we used to ask the bouncers, it's like, well, why we can't get in? And it was because maybe 4 or 5 of us rocked up at the same time trying to get in. And we would say, well, that's our music playing right there, that y'all playing, that you hear, inside the club. But then we started to kind of sit back and try to figure out, why is it that they weren't allowing us into these clubs and making other excuses as to why we couldn't get in. And we started to realize that these white people feel uncomfortable when they're in there dancing and they trying to sing along to the song, and these word comes up, and they got to look over their shoulder when they saying that, because we've given them the word now. So it's an interesting dynamic now. So now
Right.
now what they've done is just taking the power from the word. Now, depending on your age and how you feel about it, when you hear the word, you still gonna feel the same way. But the younger generation don't have that sort of connection to the word and what it, where it comes from, and the meaning it has to us and our ancestors, that as it does to them. Now it's just like my boy, my man, my nigga, and again, not
My
saying that
dog.
it's that, yeah, my dog, not saying that it's a good thing, but that's what I think Tupac was trying to do when he introduced that acronym, and trying to change the meaning of the word and trying to take the power away from the word and give it new meaning.
Can I ask a question?
So,
Um, I own a Ford, well, my wife do anyway, Ford Explorer.
right,
If I decide, what I really want is a Bentley.
yeah,
So I wake up tomorrow and I start calling my Ford a Bentley.
hmm
I change the meaning of the word on my car
hmm
and I begin to proclaim it's a Bentley.
hmm
If I
Well,
did,
I
if I am not the original creator of it,
hmm
how can I have power to change it?
Well, I'll tell you this: if you get enough people to believe that, then you can. They'll start calling it whatever you want to call it. If one, you got some influence, and you have the power to be able to have people listen to you and believe that you believe that, then guaranteed. I mean, I can probably even think of some instances where that has happened with a car. Because there's people that got 300, it's 300 C's or whatever, that Chrysler, that think they got a Bentley, and they call it a Bentley because it got the same
But
grill as a Bentley.
but let
I
me
understand what
ask
you're
another
saying.
question.
Yeah. Okay.
If I tell a lie and I get enough people to believe the lie, does it make it the truth?
No, no. I'm not
Still a
even
lie.
saying Tupac says, yeah, still a lie.
When I get
Still a
down,
lie.
when I get through, and all the people I convinced to call my Ford a Bentley, when I go down to trade it off, you know what they're gonna give me for it? The value of a Ford, because I
Yep.
ain't changed nothing, because I don't have the
But if you
power to change it.
I understand that, but if you go to any one of these people that are saying the word nigger, if you were to ask them where that word comes from or derives from, I guarantee you a lot of them couldn't tell you the history of that word, which means they've taken the power away from where that word means. So now it's generations that don't even really know what that word. If we'd have kept it, and I'm not saying he's right for doing it, but I'm saying if he'd have kept it where it was and it's a negative term, you know, we'd probably be out. And for me, I feel like what that's done for me, it's allowed me to, if I get if I'm out, like say in a country where it's nothing but white people and someone calls me a nigger, I have the intellectual fortitude to be able to break it down to them and make them feel what the word, what if you look up nigger in the dictionary, it says ignorant. So I got the intellectual fortitude to be able to break it down to them to where now they feel ignorant about it, and before getting upset and swinging. You know what I'm saying? I can do that now. When if you keep it negative, the minute somebody says something, you swing it because you're not going to stop them from saying it. Now that you put it in the music, you're not going to stop a white boy from calling you nigger or whatever. But now if you're taking that power away from it, now it don't mean nothing that you call me that.
But to
Now
tell
I'm
you the truth, I'm
explaining.
not trying to stop them. I'm trying to stop us.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I get it. I get it, but
Hmm.
understand what I'm saying. That it's like with everything else in hip hop, it's going to be one of those things that I believe that is going to, now that you've taken the power away from the word, now that it's also comes from the lack of something to say. Like if you lack the vocabulary to be able to say what you got to say or say what you want to say, it's easy to put a curse word or a nigga in the lyrics to be able to like fill in the gaps for the lack of having the knowledge to be able to say what you really want to say. But if you take some of these other rappers who have the vocabulary and have the knowledge to be able to say what they want to say, they even some of the more conscious rappers might use the word, but they don't even. It's not towards anyone. It's just using it as like I said, I don't know, term of endearment for lack of a
But the
better
bottom,
word.
but the bottom,
So
the bottom line here is that Scripture tells us, Yahweh Himself says that will be known as a byword in every nation. That's the bottom
yeah,
line. And the other part of that is that is part of the curse that we
Mm-hmm.
experience or we're experiencing
yeah,
as a people for having violated the covenant that was laid before us by Yahweh. And the third thing is it's going to be up to us to go
Mm-hmm.
back,
yeah,
to go back. If we're experiencing the curses for having violated the covenant, then we got to go back to obedience to the covenant to experience the blessings that we receive for being obedient to the covenant. Now, the N word is just one aspect or one part of that curse that we've experienced as a people. It goes on to even more. We had our children, and when we were slaves, sold from under us. The wife of the slave was sleeping with the slave master. I mean, but not
mm,
by choice, of course. We had yokes on our necks. I mean, there were several aspects of several curses that we experience as a people. And the byword is just one of those. That's just one of them. And
But you can also,
us
yeah.
addressing each other by that byword is something we have to deal with. Don't really deal with that. It's going back to the obedience to the covenant of Yah.
Absolutely.
Bottom line.
Yep. But you can look at
also we have to, I think we have to recognize let me put it like this. If you go to the book of Genesis and which means the book of the beginning of the book of creation, right?
Right.
It is very clear there that when God got ready to create something, he spoke. In other words, he released words. When he got ready to create light, he said, "Let there be light," and light was. Then if you look in the first chapter of John, it says, "In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. And by him, the Word, all things were made that were made, and without the Word, there was nothing made." So that tells me that words have creative power. So if I have an agenda and there's a certain people that I want to keep in a lower position and keep in ignorance, because again, God said, "My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge." That's ignorance. But we've been intentionally put in ignorance. We've been purposely put in this state of ignorance. And so if I can get them to begin to embrace those things by the power of words that they can speak up on each other and accept it as the norm, then me low rating and downgrading my brothers and my sisters is a common thing. And it's something that as you say, if you get enough people receiving it and doing it, then you don't change the meaning in the minds of those people, but it has not changed the meaning of the fact that it's a byword, it's a word of insult. And so we end up not only insulting ourselves, we pay money to go hear each other insult us. We pay money and give money to our children to buy them music to listen and feed into their spirit us insulting us and downgrading us.
Okay.
We through these words, we have glorified killing one another. I was sharing with someone the other day, man. It used to be if someone got killed, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
It was big news. But you can't wake up a morning without turning on the news and hear about one of us killing one another. And don't mention what's done happened to the family. Over 70% of Black families is headed by a single parent, and the majority of them are women. We got to wake up. And this is not something that we just should do. We're going to have to wake up, or we're going to go non-existent as a people.
True.
Period.
Right.
We got to start doing better. We got to start embracing things that build us up
Yes.
instead of tearing us down.
And a lot of it begins.
Our very existence depend on it.
Yes. A lot of it begins with identifying, with knowing who we are as a people.
Yeah.
Knowing that we are Yahweh's chosen people. That in itself says a lot. And when you know that you're Yah's people, you know what he expects of his people. But it's identifying, there's this thing, this term that goes out saying identity theft, and you go into the word of Yah, and it tells you how those that say they are Jews, they do lie, they are the synagogue of Satan. We don't even know who we are as a people. And until we identify ourselves as Yahweh's chosen people, and from there know what his expectations are of us, and his expectations of us are in his word. So we got to go to the word.
Yeah.
We got to go to his word.
Powers that be know who we are.
That's right.
But we don't know who we are. CBS know who we are, but we don't know who we are. ABC, NBC, they know who we are. They know we the chosen. But we don't know. That's giving them the power over us. For us not to know who we are, that's playing their game.
Because they got us in the mind, and we got to break that mind thing. You know how they say when an elephant is young, you know how there's no chain that's strong enough to hold a grown elephant. So when it's small, they just put a little chain on his arm, and he knows he can't go. And so once he's grown, they don't even have to put a chain on him. They just put a little string, because he'll just feel something tug, and he won't break it, even though he totally can if he wanted to.
That's a perfect example of our situation. We're no longer in physical bondage anymore.
Right.
Physical slavery it's all mental.
That's
emotional.
When Yahweh delivered the children of Israel out of Egypt, out of bondage, he did it in one night from physical slavery.
That's right.
Took him 40 years to deliver their minds, though. He had to leave them around the wilderness 40 years to deliver their minds out of Egypt.
How many generations was included in that 40 years that had to pass away?
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so we have to, I was sharing with a prayer group I'm in a few nights ago. I said, if anything we need to pray for, we need to pray for the liberation of the minds of our young people. We need to pray that they begin to be open to the truth of Yahweh's word and committed to it as much as they are to hip hop or rap. And again, I'm not saying all rap music is bad.
All right. I understand.
Matter of fact, I looked up the first rap song that was recorded, and I can't remember the group, but that was a
Rapper's Delight.
Yeah, 1979.
Hip hop, the hip hop, don't stop.
But you know, I found one that was recorded before then.
Yeah, there's a cut. That's the first.
The guys
recorded,
with the suits.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I found two.
What's their name?
Yeah, I think they were back from the James Brown era. I remember.
Yeah,
that was one that was recorded by a guy named Pig Meat Martin.
Pig Meat.
Here comes the judge. Here comes the judge.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
And then
even before that, you look at the scatting with the jazz and all of that. All of it is derived from that. So that's what I'm saying. It was a culture that was created, and it was only using the breaks from a lot of those songs. When the song broke down in the record, they would loop those breaks in those songs, and the DJ would just MC over it. It wasn't even rapping. He would just kind of scat and talk over it. And then so it was the MC and the DJ. And then it became more of, poetry over rap, and then it became more rhyming to the beat. So that developed over time. Yeah.
So Picnic Martin's song that original song was actually you would classify as comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the first one I found was in 1949, and it was recorded by a gospel group called Noah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Well, Noah they rapped the word about God speaking to Noah to build the ark, build them an ark.
Yeah.
That was in 1949. So when it originally started out as something that was clean, but it began to take on a whole new life when people start to put their hands in it for the sake of fulfilling their purpose. And that is, we got to get this, the purpose of it is to keep us down.
Yeah. And there's a the advocate, I hate to use the word devil's advocate, so let's say the advocate is that hip hop has changed lives. It's helped people create generational wealth when before it wasn't something that we even understood. So over the 50 years of hip hop, it has definitely changed lives and put people in position to be able to feed their families and do this. And just like anything else, once something gets commercialized and people start to see it's generating money, the powers that be start to make sure that, okay, now we can use this thing that they've created that we didn't think was going to really last, because it was just a thing in the streets that people did. People was on the corners rapping and spitting and talking to dozens and all of that, and that was all kind of building that hip hop thing with the dancing and the graffiti and all of that. And then when they started to see this is something that, oh, this thing ain't going nowhere, so we need to get a hold of it. And then that's when the label started to sign artists and put them in positions where they can, and that's what it wasn't. So you always had, whenever you had the negative hip hop, there was always a positive conscious hip hop that went right along with it, but it was considered more of underground. They called it underground. They called
because they wouldn't put money into it.
They wouldn't put money.
It doesn't. Marcus, I have no doubt, Marcus probably do great music.
Yeah,
but they ain't finna put money in Marcus.
Right.
Yeah,
they ain't finna promote Marcus.
But you still have to
go double charcoal.
You still have to play that game. They're gonna allow a few through, but it's just not gonna be to the extent of some of the other artists. Like you got the Commons and the Lauryn Hills and all of these artists, or the Talib Kweli. A lot of these artists are making positive music. They're speaking positive words, and they understand who we are, so they're speaking power to the people. And
but speaking of positive music,
you talking about that Lauryn Hill that they say is crazy?
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Exactly.
But Marcus, you have an album out called Grown Folk Business.
Yes, sir. That was just
Tell us about it.
It's a compilation of everything that I put together. Like, I was walking away from music, and like I told you, I started in 2004 with the book, and so now all the people who I started out talking to, they're all grown. They have children. They have, it's not. They're not teenagers anymore. So now it's not about, hey, keep your head up, listen to your teacher. Now they are dealing with real life, and they don't know how to deal with it. And so that's what the album is, just talking about, all the things that we go through in life that school doesn't usually prepare us for. And it all ends up falling on the pastor, because that's the only person that most of the people will ever have any kind of positive connection with. a lot of
Right.
times,
And
unfortunately.
sometimes that's even questionable.
Right. Hey, look,
Yeah.
it's funny because I had a guy was telling me he used to box in Houston, and he was telling me that he boxed at the Shape Center, and I had no idea that he knew anything about the Shape Center. My friend, Mr. Mayberry, and it just shows how positivity comes in different ways. But he
Mhm.
Right.
remembered being connected, having an opportunity, to learn something that's been beneficial to him through Deloitte and through the, something that was good.
Right.
And I just want my music to be that kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
you get into it, you see a guy who came in. Now I don't care about music, but it's there. We can't say
Yeah.
that there's not a library of music to show you how to deal with life issues.
Well, so far your music has done that, Marcus. It has been a motivator. You're a
Yeah.
motivational rapper.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
now my goal is to motivate the kids. You see behind me, I created one of the first black-owned solar-powered 3D printing studios.
Mm.
You see all of those 3D printers behind me. So what I do is I'm building it for fundraisers for schools, churches, because now funds are the problem. So I take raw material like this that I buy and I turn it into actual glowing key rings. So now the schools can have value and the teacher, everybody can have something that's made of value, but it didn't get shipped from China. It didn't get shipped from anywhere. It was manufactured right here. So that's what
I,
I'm working on to build so that, we got something to, so that's where I'm going with the music. So I used to talk positive. Now I see they just need some bread. They need money. They need
yeah.
help to get the uniforms. You know what I mean? They need to go to camp and that kind of stuff. And so
Yeah.
now I can help and use my, intellect to build something that they can use to benefit them as well.
Your intellect and your
And that's
ingenuity.
how and that's how
Yeah, Marcus,
that's
we're gonna
how
have to
the
get you to
industry.
come back, man, and kind of feature some of your stuff,
Okay, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So
That's
Would you say,
I was saying that's how the sorry, Mark, go ahead, Mark.
No, I was asking you what I couldn't hear
Oh
what
no,
you were saying.
I was just gonna say that positivity in the music, and it's especially in the industry, is it's that carrot that they dangle. Like I said, I've been in the industry for about 20 to 25 years, worked in LA, worked in different parts of the industry. And I remember when my wife Mira was doing a show with TLC, right?
Right.
And it was one of the first of the big reality
Yeah.
shows where they were looking to replace Left Eye,
Left Eye. I remember.
one of the artists that that passed away tragically, and they did this reality show where they went around the country and they put a bunch of girls in the house and took them through all of these competitions. And she was fortunate enough to win um, runner up on the show. And it was interesting that after that, there was a lot of phone calls and a lot of emails and a lot of people hitting us up to to want to sign her. But what was interesting is that they were trying to turn her into something that she wasn't. Because at the time, the biggest female rappers were the Little Kims and all those artists
Right.
like that was showing their ass and
mhm.
talking all the craziness and records and everything.
Gotcha.
And they were like, okay, we got another female, and we had music recorded already, and they were like, yeah, that's cool. Okay, we're gonna get you in the studio and we want you to do something like so. That was the pressure of it wasn't pressure because we knew who we were and that wasn't something we were going to do, but that's the pressure they put on the young people,
Yeah.
Right.
even the ones that come into the industry with the intent of
That's right.
doing something positive because
Good.
they
Right.
come from a good family and they come from good upbringings and all that, and they know who they are. They dangle that carrot and they say, look, well, you can come in and just do a couple of these songs, and then when you come in after your first album, you can do what you want. But the problem with that is that once you come in, however you come in, that's how they're gonna receive you.
Yeah.
It's very hard for artists to change who they are once they come in the door a certain way. So if you come in speaking all that, and doing all that. Now you want to, the audience that the followers and the fans that you've established during that time, and you switch it up, and now you want to do something else. They're gonna be like, oh, well, that's not why I signed up for this. And then so that carrot is what
The hook. They call it the hook.
what they hook. Yeah, that's what they dangling. And so
Yeah.
when we started doing Mira's music independently, and I was producing her albums and co-writing with her on the music, we made a point of making sure that we put out
Being true
music
to
that
self.
was that was true to self. And we started with a trilogy. Life. The first album was Life. Second album Love, and the third album that she's working on at the moment is Music. And that was it was a trilogy, and it was about self empowerment. It was about life. It was about love. It was about relationships. It was about knowing who you are. It was about understanding. Oh, sorry. Yeah, and you got it. Okay, and yeah, so that was. But just going back to the point of that's how, especially a lot of the young people get sucked into it, is that they're
Yeah.
dangling that carrot or that hook
Yeah.
in front of them, and a lot of money right now. They putting a
Right.
lot of money. A lot of these new artists are making a lot more money than the ones that came before them. That's why they're not listening to a lot of the older ones. That's why
Yeah.
they're not listening to them, because they're like, well, you ain't making the kind of money I made. So,
Right.
I ain't listening to you. That's why, a lot of the younger generation are not, they becoming millionaires in their 20s. And they're like, well, they're not even listening to their parents or their family, because there's no one who's made that kind of money in their family, and they're the first to do it. So they feel like, oh, well, why should I listen to you when you haven't done what I've done?
Mm.
And the labels and stuff know that too, so they putting this money in their hand. But because it had been exposed from the generation before, during the Motown era and during the 70s and
Right.
60s and 70s, that a lot of those artists got messed around in their contracts and then
Yeah.
didn't get their publishing, and the money is in the publishing. The money, that's why these record companies, they'll go out and they'll give you a big sum of money up front, but they want to own your publishing,
That's
because
right.
down the line, that's what's going to make them money. They can play, now there's a million different formats to play your music. So anytime your music get played in a store right now, it's playing in 25 or 2,500 stores right now. You get paid for each time it's played in that store. You get played, it's played in the airport. It's played right now. Somebody's streaming it right now. Every time your music gets played, that's a royalty,
Yeah.
and you're supposed to get paid from that. But if you don't own your publishing, then you're not getting none of that. But you got that up front.
Somebody else getting paid.
Yeah, you might have got that $1 million up front, but it's nothing compared to what they making from it every time it's played.
Right.
And they know you're gonna blow through that $1 million quick anyway and give it right back to them. So it's not it's not even, they're gonna get you in debt, or you're gonna get into some kind of legal trouble where they're gonna get their lawyers and put on you, and they're gonna make that money. So the way the record labels work, they sign an artist, and they're like, okay, before you might come to the label able to produce your own music and write your own songs, but they don't want that. They're like, okay, we have a system here. We got a guaranteed, proven system that we know that we get 3 singles, and this is how it used to be. It's still kind of like this. So we guarantee, if we can guarantee the 3 singles, the rest of the album don't even matter. So we'll put out a 15-song album. As long as we get 3 good singles out of it, we're gonna make our money back. So they'll sign you to the label, and they're like, okay, we got three in-house producers that we need you to work with to guarantee you get those 3 hot singles that's gonna do really well. So they already getting money back in the pocket because those producers work for that label.
Right.
Yeah.
And all the
So
people
now
they had
you
on
see,
their team, all the people they had on her
yeah,
team are
you
out.
got
They're
that
out.
Yeah.
you got that marketing team that's gonna get a piece of the money. You got all these money. So, and a lot of us don't understand that recoup. that, whatever they give you, they putting you in the studios, they getting you the cars to the studios and to the club, and you getting the clothes, and they paying your rent and all that. All that's recoupable. So
Yeah.
you go into debt the minute you sign that contract. So it's basically a loan. You can go to the bank and get a loan. So that's what happened in the 90s when artists started to figure that out. That's when you had the big spring of independent labels. You had the regular Joe Blow who had a bit of money, or the drug dealer who wanted to get out the game and he wanted to put his money into something, positive. He was, they were putting money into these artists and building them up and building their catalog, and then going to the label now with a bit more leverage.
Yeah.
So now they
Yeah.
come into the artist, they come into the label now with leverage now, saying, okay, we already have this recorded. It's already good quality because we were in the good studios. We already got a fan base. And so now the labels that's when they started to tank.
Right.
It used to be like 10, 15 labels, and it went down to 4. They all merged because they were in trouble, because that people weren't trying to get record deals no more. They were signing production companies that already had the artists and who had the artists signed to them. And that's where all of those, where you see on
Wow.
labels, where you see the
What
You
happened?
froze up.
distributed by this, and yeah,
But
they'll have
Eh,
distributed by this company
you
and
you
this.
freezing up there, Marcus. But anyway,
But
guys,
at
we about
any
out
rate,
of time. And
yeah,
Okay.
and
I did not expect to have this wealth of information on the hip hop industry. I did not
yeah,
Yeah.
expect to have that. In fact, just as we're closing out, there's another artist that came in, Jason the Golden Child Turner, just showed up late. He's sitting in Carl's chair right now. But we're gonna have you guys back. Got to
yes,
have you
yeah.
guys back because you guys really
Sure.
really share some things I did not know about the industry, you know. But Jason, you got to come back and share your story with us, brother.
I will. I will.
You
I
will.
will. I was listening. I was listening, but I couldn't hit the link because I was in the car. But y'all were right on point. Y'all were right on point.
Okay.
Okay.
But what I do want to do is to share with you all something that's coming up real soon. This is just a little commercial break. On June the 18th, we're going to be celebrating Juneteenth at the Acres Homes
Multi,
Multi-Service Center,
yes.
June the 18th, 9:30 a.m. You got to be there. You want to give them the address, Pastor?
Hold on just a minute. Let me pull this up. I think it's 6719 West Montgomery. Um, let me make sure here. But again, it is June 18th, and it is going to be at 9:30, and it will be at the West Montgomery at the Acres
Acres
Home
Homes.
Multicultural Center, a multi-service center,
Yeah, that's
and it's
6719
719.
Montgomery Road, Houston, Texas. This is going to be a very, very powerful teaching where the Bible and Black history will meet. Where the
Amen.
Bible and Black history will meet. So you've got to be there. It's June 18th at the Acres Home Multi-Service Center at 6719 West Montgomery Road in Houston, Texas. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Hey, I want to thank all our guests and guys. I'm going to have Terry get in touch with you because we need to do this again. I believe that this subject matter is too important for us
Yes.
to just keep ignoring it. And so, matter of fact, if we we can work it out for y'all to come back next week. We'll do it. So,
Yes.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah. So, but anyway, want to
So,
thank everyone for tuning in tonight, and we're going to encourage you once again to share this broadcast out so that others can be a partaker of this, and share this with your young people that you know what they're doing. So share it with your young people. We want to get them some information, some knowledge about the things that's going on in the world around them that they are just embracing and being programmed with without being knowing that they are being programmed.
Right.
Amen.
All right. And so until next time, of course, we want to invite you to tune in Saturday morning at 10:30. Well, actually, we'll be at the other meeting.
Multi-service center. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, till next week, this is Pastor Hollis saying, may Yahweh bless you.
And this is Pastor Terry Parker saying, and as he blesses you, bless someone else. And shalom to each of you.